George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation. Pleased to be joined by Ed Thompson. He is the author of Piano in the Dark. Now, this is a really fascinating story. This puts together all of Ed's current interests as a associate minister at Abundant Life Christian Center, as an attorney who has worked as not only a public defender but also as a prosecutor. And so Ed, where did this idea of you becoming an author, where did that come from? Because uh, that's certainly something that you said came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really did. I About 4 years ago, I decided to go to seminary. I had I was looking for something to do to actually to fill my time, and I decided to go to seminary. And most of the people there were a lot younger than me, and they all had these big dreams and visions of things that they want to do. They want to start, orphanage in Kenya or whatever. I really didn't know why I was there. I was just there basically because, I was trying to find something else to do. And I've always been interested, of course, in the Bible. And then while I was there, I started to, you know, get this vision, a new vision for my life. I started Jesus was a storyteller, and I started to get this ideal that inside of me, there was a voice that I had never really used before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I just put pen to paper, so to speak. And this is my first work, Piano in the Dark, just came out of that
Uh,
place.
this is your first book, right?
It's my first book, yes.
And so had you written anything before that?
Uh, not fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I've written poetry. I've written other things, but I had never written fiction before. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really sure that I could do it. But I knew that I had this idea, that for a story that was burning inside of me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I gave it a go, and I really liked the way that it came out.
Well, you said the word burning, so let me just turn to some news that's happening right now. Right, we're
Yes.
seeing some violence as a result of yet another police involved shooting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which has sparked some protests as well. Of course, this has been a summer protest related to Breonna Taylor, George Floyd,
Yes.
and the Black community seeking justice. As someone who's worked in the prosecutor's office, what's your reaction to this as a law enforcement person, or on the side of the law, if you will, and what is happening in this community and this country, where we continue to see what our community perceives as the killing of black men?
Yeah. I've been a practicing attorney for over 20 years, and I went into law because I love the law. I like the ideal of the law. I like the ideal of justice prevailing, and I like the ideal of minorities having a voice in a system. And so to say that I'm disheartened by the current events, and honestly, there aren't isn't just current. It's been going on for a while, as we know. And I've struggled with it, just like everyone else has. But I just think that that we're in the midst of a change, like we haven't seen before. I'm hopeful. I'm not. I can't say that that I know exactly how this change is going to manifest or how long it's going to take. But I think that we're in a good place, as a nation and as a community. Our voices are being heard in a way that they never have been before, and I'm just hopeful that we see some real change, some change that's long overdue.
How many times have you been pulled over?
More times than I can say. When I was a young attorney, I liked nice cars. I used to drive a lot of sports cars and things like that. I was pulled over. I've been pulled over a lot. I've been told to get out of the car, get in the back, go to the back and of the car or the vehicle, and I've been I've been harassed just like everyone else, not just on the streets, but as a Black attorney, where I'm a minority, so I've been mistaken for the defendant in a courtroom when I was a prosecutor.
Mm.
I've seen it in so many different ways.
So, when the president was asked about, or one of the talking points, if you will, on the right is around the issue of systemic racism not being prevalent or doesn't exist. Your experience, what you just described, proves that it does exist.
Yeah, I think that anyone who makes the argument that that there is no systemic racism in our criminal justice system is simply just being disingenuous. Can I tell you a story? I was when I was a prosecutor, I was a federal prosecutor, and I was handling a case where it was a armed robbery that took place at a post office in a rural post office up in northern New York. A man came into the post office. He had he had a mask on, he had a gun, he had gloves on. The three postal clerks in the post office at the time, after the robbery and when interviewed, they made a statement in terms of what happened. They made an ID in terms of what the perpetrator looked like. Their ID was that he was a Black man in a mask, and he came in and he did this and he did that. And so, fortunately, the authorities were able to find the guy that did this and arrested him, and I prosecuted him. And the thing was that there's two guys: the guy that went into the post office and the guy that drove the getaway car. And notwithstanding the fact that the eyewitnesses definitely said that it was a Black man, it was a white man.
Really?
And as a result of that, I lost the case. And that's really not the point. The point of it is we know what they see when they see us. And what they see is someone, they see a criminal, they see, and so even
First, before anything else, right?
Before anything else. And even when they can't see our face, they fill in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have been a Black man. It had to be a Black guy. All three witnesses were certain that it was a Black guy, and so, it's clear to me, that a system made up of people is going to be failable, because what we bring to the table is we bring our own personal, biases and foregone conclusions. And I think that, so from the very beginning of the criminal justice system, from the time that a person enters the system being arrested until the time that they're incarcerated or vindicated, there are a lot of processes that are put into place that that can lead to a lot of racism coming into play.
We're talking with Ed Thompson, author of Piano in the Dark. We'll get to the book in a moment, but I wanted to deal with the issues that are right in front of us. Why are you speaking out about your experiences now? Because you could have said a lot of this earlier in your life. What about this moment is causing you and calling you to address these issues of systemic racism in the law and your own experiences of being stopped, being perceived as the person who committed the crime and not the person representing the state?
That's a really good question. And to be totally honest with you, it hasn't been easy to step out and to say some of the things that I've never said before. And I think that, there's when I was younger and I was trying to build my career, I just took some things.
Mm-hmm.
I took it when the judge, thought I was the defendant. It wasn't like I stood up and said, why did you do that? And it's like I took some things, partly because I thought I needed to do that in order to advance, and partly because I just really didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in a different place in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pressing need inside of me to talk about the things that that I have seen, the things that I have experienced.
So what would you say to your younger Ed today about being mistaken for having mistaken identity, or and what would you say the younger Eds, right, and Edwinas, if you will,
Right.
coming coming up today around how to advocate for or uh, not to put up with injustice in the sake of a career? Because you're right, you made a choice, probably you thought the best choice for you and your family at the time. Um, but would you make that same choice today as a young Ed coming into the law if this were to happen to you? Would you say something? And so, what are you saying to those who are coming up now about how to uh, make their presence known and affirm and assert their identities?
I have two thoughts there. I think that is important to keep in mind that that a lot of us are angry. We're angry about what's going on today, and we can't let the anger be our guide. And the Bible says what the Bible says to be angry but sin not. So we have to
Right.
be careful. And I think that part of being young is you go with your emotions.
Right.
And
Right.
so but at the same time, I'm thinking about what Dr. King said about civil disobedience,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that he basically said that it's not just a right. We have a right under the law, to protest, but you actually have there's not just a right, but it's an obligation. And I would remind the younger Ed of that. I would say it's
Mm.
not good enough to just take it, just to endure, just to get by, because
Mm.
it really wasn't just about me. It was about the other folks that were coming behind me,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things about I was in the room. I was in the room when people were making decisions about you know on what cases to bring, and what would be an appropriate sentence. I put cases into the grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
I know what that looks like, and having been inside, it gave me a unique perspective, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And so part of the things that I can say now with confidence and with boldness, I really hadn't even experienced yet when I was younger.
Mm. Talking with Ed Thompson, talking about the law, especially in this moment in American history, all across this country, what we're thinking about, what we're about to do on election day, just a couple of days from now. We are going to the polls, and in my view, undo some things that if we don't do the right thing, will continue to uh, uh, if we don't get Trump out. I need to be clear. That's my opinion. That is not anything, Ed, you have to deal with or not. I'm just telling you what I think needs to happen, and I'm being straight up about it.
I
I'm not
understand.
mincing any words about that, because that goes back to dancing around. And no, we know what
Right.
we have to do, because if we don't, the kind of thing that you're talking about, systemic racism, oppression will be the order of the day. You can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it. So, speaking about the law, that is sort of what happens in your book, Piano in the Dark, because there are some things that need to be addressed in the book. So, let's talk about your idea for Piano in the Dark. And it's interesting because being a minister, you deal with the issue of gay, lesbian, transgender issues in this community. And so, uh, I just found that to be striking, since much of the conflict about being gay or lesbian is coming out of the religious tradition. So here you
Right.
are, a minister writing about um, uh, this story. So tell us what this story is about. I'm teasing it so that you can tell us.
Okay. It's a fictional piece, and it actually takes place. The whole thing takes place in the city of Syracuse,
You know,
or
can I just say something, Ed? So as I'm reading about your description of the church. You know, I'm trying to. Okay, is that this church? Okay, is that that church?
Yeah,
Okay, is it
yeah,
that building? Because
right,
if you know, and it's on the south side, so which so go ahead.
right, right. I was careful not to, uh,
There's
not to
some
go there.
right, because there's some descriptions that well that could be, but then it doesn't have that. But anyway, that's the
Right,
danger, right? When you're talking about something that's set in your hometown, and they think
exactly.
people think it's about them. But go ahead.
Yeah, and the centerpiece of the book is a fictional black church on the south side of Syracuse,
Mount
and
Moriah Missionary Baptist Church.
yeah, there you go, there you go. And the minister of music is a young gifted pianist, and he happens to be a closeted homosexual. He's in the closet,
Hmm.
and he's in a relationship, but no one in the church knows about it. And basically, what happens very early on in the book is that his secret is discovered, and he is fired from his position as the minister of music at the church. And he basically sues the church for
Mm,
discrimination in federal
mm,
court.
mm,
And the
mm,
book is about his struggle um, from being in a place where he grew up, where he loved God, but he also loves another man, and so there was that conflict there, and really the book asks the question, what happens when the heart desires something that God may not want it to have.
mm. And so it's interesting because this past in the recent weeks, Pope John has issued uh, a statement around the church's acceptance of civil unions, which is
Correct.
different um, than marriage for same gender loving couples, and um, the Supreme Court has also recently affirmed their rights for now, right? For now, even as the administration is seeking to take away some of those rights. So, how did you decide that this was something that you wanted to tackle and write about? And it sounds as if you're saying that God may not want it, but then He still has a right. So tell me why you decided to tackle this issue.
It really came, believe it or not, out of a conversation that I had with someone in my family over dinner. She was a really strong believer, my cousin, and so we were just talking. There were other people there, and she started talking about the problem with gays being in the church and how it was destructive, and we need to do more. And she said some things that I thought were that I certainly didn't agree with. I thought they were derogatory, and so I think that a lot of times it's easy to discriminate or to put down people who you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and who you don't really know, understand them as a person, as an
Mm-hmm.
individual. And so after that conversation, it just didn't sit right with me, and so I had this idea that what if I created a character who she would have to deal with on a personal level. And she would understand what his motivations were. She'd understand how he felt about God, but also about this temptation that he had in his flesh. And the dichotomy of the two was really compelling to me. And so, and to be totally honest with you, the process of writing this book was very emotional for me, and I learned some things because I have some stereotypes in my head too. It wasn't that I would not have said that I was this really liberal leaning guy before I wrote this book. I'm a lawyer.
So
It's a very conservative profession.
right. So you did the. So you're saying the character Steve changed you in writing about him?
He changed me. He really did. I know that sounds strange,
It
and
does.
it really sounds strange because it wasn't. I wasn't 100% sure where it was going to end. I had some ideas. I had some events that had to take place, and then I wanted to just kind of, not just let my head, dictate what happened, but kind of like write from my spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I did. And
Well,
yes,
so the loaded question then for you is: do gays have a place in the church? Can God
uh,
can right because they're if someone is professing to be same gender loving, uh, can they? Would you serve them in your church? Can they be served in your church? I think that's a fair question.
I believe with all my heart that God loves the gay and the homosexuals as much as He loves anybody else. God is not a respecter of person, and to me, that is clear, and that cannot be disputed. The rest of it, in terms of can a gay person serve in leadership? Can a gay person lead worship? Can a gay person do what teach Sunday school? I think that that's a different question,
Mm-hmm.
but quite honestly, I think that when the church is addressing these type of issues, that we have to keep in mind that that number one, that God does love the gay person. Number two, we represent Jesus. We represent Jesus to the world, and Jesus said that He didn't come to condemn anybody. He didn't come. He came that people might be saved. And he when He walked this earth, he associated with sinners and people who are not doing the right thing, who may not necessarily be moral by society's standards. And I think that my honest opinion, after going through the experience of writing this book and maybe before, was that I think oftentimes the church has misrepresented the heart of God when it
Mm.
comes to dealing with people who are hurting, and who I mean, this is a really big struggle for a lot of folks in this country, and we need to show the love of Christ when we're dealing with people who are suffering, as opposed to um, 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 His judgment.
So you
Because
think so? Now I gotta ask this, Ed. You think people who are gay are suffering?
I think that some people are suffering, and the
Are
book was
they?
really written
Go ahead.
not just for gay people in general, but gay Christians. I think
Okay.
gay Christians are suffering because there is inherent conflict in what they have been taught, or what they may understand
Oh.
about God
Mm-hmm,
and what
mm-hmm.
they're feeling.
Are you talking about the conflict, and not only so not the conflict about the conflict overall, the overall conflict. So I see where you're going with this. I mean, I think I see where you're going with this. You're
Mhm.
saying that can gay folks be accepted in the way that you describe? Uh, what do you say to other leaders around this issue?
Again, I really I feel really strongly that that church leaders have missed it when it comes to this particular issue. Again, it's easy to judge people and to push people aside when you don't really understand who they are and what they're going through.
Well, I like what you said earlier. Love start with love, right?
Right.
If,
Start with love.
start with love, and I think it start. I think that's where we find all of the answers. All of the answers, right, starts with love, and so here we are in this book. You say that it has liberated you, and I think that's fascinating. Piano in the Dark, the debut novel of Ed Thompson, and it deals with race, and also race from the standpoint of not only is he gay and he's the minister of music, but his lover is white. So that's a whole other.
Yeah.
You just threw all of it at you threw all the issues in the table here. But I guess I'll give you the last word here. What do you hope happens with this book, Piano in the Dark, and what their takeaway is. That's one question, and the follow up would be, what's your hope for us as a community? So as a church community, if you will.
Yes. In terms of my hope for the book, someone asked me, well, what would it take for this book to be a success for you? What would have to happen? And obviously it's not, I wasn't thinking I was writing a bestseller or, what I was thinking about the one person out there who was having this struggle. And and I just wanted to that person to know that you are loved, that you are deeply loved by God, and that He has a plan and a purpose for your life, and that is extreme. So don't feel that that there is not a place for you in the community of God and in His church. But so seek first Him and His righteousness, and then all the other stuff will come to you, and you'll figure out what your place is, because He is big enough to meet you where you are. And in terms of the community, I I think that more than anything else, I think that it's important that we keep in mind that ours is a righteous cause.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been through, we've been through a lot, and it seems like, that progress has been slow.
Mm-hmm.
But we are some of the strongest people that God has placed on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the ability to endure and to trust that the God that brought us this far hasn't forgotten us, and that He will bring us to the end, to the place where He wants us to be, because He is a God of justice, and justice is on our side.
Amen. Ed Thompson is an author of Piano in the Dark. And how do we find this book?
The easiest way is on Amazon.
Amazon.com. And tell me about the music that goes along with this.
Well, the thing with the main character in the book was that the way that he worships God is he likes to play the piano in the dark, hence the title. And so I was thinking about what that would sound like, that type of worship, from the heart of this character to the heart of God. And so I just attached a little bit of music from one of the musicians from my church, and I said, have you read my book? He said no. And I told him what it was about. I go, can you tell me what that would sound like? Give you an idea what that would sound like? And he did.
All right, and we'll let this interview end with a little bit of that. Ed Thompson, Piano in the Dark. Get it? He's an attorney. He's a minister, and he's shaking things up for real, for real. And I think he's going to start a new conversation in the ministry and in this community. Ed Thompson, good luck, and thank you for being on Inspiration for the Nation.
Thank you for having me.